Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 991B and today's date is June 7th, 2016 and the title of the episode is FEMA Warning, Power Will Be Out for Weeks After the Infrastructure is Attacked. Now before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Bix Weir. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over to that channel. Just type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you right to the channel. You see the video there. You can play it. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site. You can scroll down a little bit. Look over to the right-hand side. You'll see the video there. You can play it there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing. Scroll down a little bit. Look over to your right-hand side. And you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, yesterday we talked about how Obama, during his PBS town hall meeting, talked about how the FBI and other agencies know that people are looking at the Islamic State websites, and which gave us the idea that, hey, they're looking at our browser history because how else are they tracking us? Well, all of a sudden there's new legislation being readied by the FBI where they would like to bypass judges. And we talked about how the FBI is using the NSL, which is the National Security Letter, to bypass this, and they want all of this to be legalized. So they can use it whenever they want, and they can just bypass everyone and look at everyone's browser history. What's very interesting about all of this is that the FBI chief, well, he made it very clear that they need to change the legislation, and this is going to be the agency's top priority in 2016. Now, Obama, I don't know if people realize this, they already tried to adopt a similar amendment about 6 years ago, but had to retreat after the opposition from the IT industry and privacy advocates. So here they have another agency giving it another go. Now, talking about giving it another go, we see that certain individuals are trying to push SOPA once again. And this is SOPA 2.0, but it's disguised as Notice and Stay Down System. That's what they call it. Notice and Stay Down. Now, if this gets approved, it will work like this. And if you notice, all of these things that they try to get through and they can't because there's too many people blocking it, or there's privacy advocates saying absolutely not, all they do is rewrap it and try again because they really want this legislation to be passed. So this is the way it works. Any Joe Schmo can accuse a website user from stealing their content, and the website user would have to take it down regardless whether it would be fair use or worse, simply not true. And after that, the platform, and this could be YouTube or any other type of platform, would end up responsible to ensure that the specific content is not being reposted. So this would basically make other posts impossible once the original has been taken down on a false copyright claim. So the question is, who decides whether or not content is found truly in violation, or even whether or not complaints being lodged are genuine to begin with? It's very interesting. Who would be doing this? There'd be no due process. Notice and Stay Down will remove all of the user's protections built into the DMCA. Currently, the statute allows users who believe material they have posted was taken down in error to file a counter notification. If the copyright holder does not choose to bring a lawsuit, then the content can be reposted. The law also prohibits the sending of false notices and allows users who have been falsely accused to bring a claim against their accuser. These protections for the user would simply go away if platforms were forced to proactively filter content. This also promotes censorship, what they're trying to do. The Notice and Stay Down has a serious First Amendment problem. The government mandating the use of technology to affirmatively take speech offline before it's even posted. And without any form of review, potentially violates free speech. There's no transparency to this. These technical filters would act as a black box that the public would have no ability to review or appeal. And we can see why they want this to be pushed through. Because it would make it very easy to censor. And the people would have no recourse. So they can just start taking things down left and right without proving anything. It's just unbelievable what they are trying to do and how many of our rights they are violating. I mean, think about what Obama said, where if you look at something, and it doesn't matter what it is, and let's say it's an Islamic State website, they can put you on the no-fly list. And they want to take that and expand that to saying, listen, we can remove your Second Amendment right to owning a gun. Well, I'm sorry. In this country, still, you are innocent until proven guilty. I know they want to get rid of all of this. Many people believe it's already gone. But look what they're trying to do here in this country. They're trying to remove our rights, censor. Wow, this reminds me of Erdogan and many of the other countries that are doing the same thing at this point. And it seems like every time the U.S. backs any of these countries, whatever they're doing over in those countries with their puppet governments, this is what they want to do here in the United States. Now, we can see the people are very nervous about our government, about the situation that we're in, because the FBI figures right now show that May 2016 was the 13th consecutive month of record background checks for retail gun sales. Every month since 2015 of May, they continued to set a record. June 2015 had more background checks than any June on record. July had more background checks than any July on record. August, the same thing, and so on. According to the FBI, there were 1.8 million background checks performed in May of 2016, which is nearly 290,000 more than it was in May of 2015. So people are starting to realize and understand what's going on here. And from what we're seeing is they're very nervous. And when people get nervous and they feel that something is going to happen, something the government is most likely going to do, they want to protect themselves. They want to protect their family. They want to protect their wealth. And like I said, we are heading into a time period where things are rapidly falling apart. We can see the call for war. We can see that this economic collapse is headed our way. We see that things are rapidly moving very, very quickly. And what we're seeing right now is people are starting to pick up on this. Sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes you start to realize that, something isn't right. I can't put my finger on it, but something's not right, and I'm a little nervous and scared. You start to talk to other people. They start to relay the same exact information that you're thinking, and all of a sudden you start to put the pieces together. And this is what we've been doing, putting pieces together, understanding what is going on, understanding what our government is doing, calling them out on it, hoping that we can stop what is coming, hoping we can band together as one. Because we are the many. The government is the few. We have more power as a people. And our founding fathers knew this. They knew the states, the people, would always have more power than the government, the federal government. But I think people have forgotten this. I think people believe that the federal government is more powerful, but they're not. We are. Now, government employees around the world, and these are our government leaders, but I don't like to call them government leaders, our government employees around the world, they like to tell us all the things they're doing for peace and how they're getting rid of nuclear weapons. And every time they speak, we start to realize that things are the opposite of what they're really talking about. And we see out in Britain where they are upgrading their arsenal of Trident nuclear weapons. And we always have to look at the actions of our governments. And they're developing an entirely new warhead. And this is coming from a report from the Nuclear Information Service, NIS. And Parliament is yet to consent to its renewal. So it looks like they're doing this in secret. We see Obama is spending a lot of money on nuclear weapons. We see the NATO forces and the private Western Central Bank countries are placing missile shields throughout Europe. And all these missiles, as we know, are pointing towards Russia, because in their heads they do believe that if they have a first strike, they will be victorious in a nuclear war. They'll be able to take down Russia, stop their launches, and the private Western Central Bank countries will be victorious and everything will be fine. Well, Putin is out there, and he has a couple questions about the ballistic missile defense, or the anti-ballistic missile system that the United States has been installing right up on the Russian border, because they originally told him that this was for Iran. And it seems Obama, guess what? He doesn't even want to speak to Putin. He refuses to discuss any of it. Now, the question is why? Well, we can see from the actions of all these government employees that they're preparing for the next war. This is why military assets, military troops have been moved into position around the world. We see the USS Porter. It has entered the Black Sea in what the Sixth Fleet says is a routine deployment to help promote peace and stability. Well, I would say if you're going to promote peace and stability, bring in a cruise ship. Let everyone come on board for a cruise and talk about peace. Why does it have to be a warship? Because a warship, as we can see in the title, means war. And the U.S. Navy destroyer, it has been outfitted with a new missile system due to what the Navy called the Russian threat. And we have to remember that U.S. does not have any border on the Black Sea. And these warships can only stay in the Black Sea for 21 days under the 1936 Montreal Convention. And these ships being in the Black Sea is not going to promote peace. It's going to provoke certain countries. That's the whole plan. Now, according to a report issued on June 6 in German Economic News, the German government is preparing to go to war against Russia and has a draft form, a Bundeswehr report declaring Russia to be an enemy nation. Back on February 17th, DWN had reported that German Chancellor Merkel will develop a new military doctrine, declaring the annexation of Crimea by Russia is the basis for military action against Moscow. And she's moving forward with this. And we can see right now from what the UK is doing, what the United States is doing, what Germany is doing, we can see that these countries are preparing and getting ready behind the scenes. They're telling us these are all the drills. It's to promote safety. It's to promote peace. It's to promote stability. And once you hear this, you know automatically that this is the opposite of what is going on. Now, out in Syria, we see the Islamic State is on the verge of losing the Manbij city in eastern Aleppo. It looks like they're going to fall, and the Syrian armed forces are ready to move into this area. We know that we're at the start of Ramadan, and what's very interesting is that the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the moderate rebels, they decided that they were going to attack, and they attacked residential areas. They attacked all these different areas, and this tells us that if they were true Muslims and they followed their religion, they wouldn't be doing this at this point. And we know that most of these terrorist groups, probably 99% of them, they're not Muslim. They're paid mercenaries. They're hired proxy forces which the United States employs through covert means to fight their battles in different countries. Assad was out there giving a speech, and he was addressing the Syrian parliament in Damascus, and he's saying that he's going to take the entire country back. And Erdogan's government, he calls a fascist regime, he's going to wipe them out of Aleppo. Actually, what he said in a quote, Aleppo will be the grave where all the dreams and hopes of the butcher will be buried. So we can see right now, with Russia's help, the Syrian armed forces, they are making huge gains in Syria. And we see that the Western-backed forces, the moderate rebels, which morph between al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, well, guess what? Without the U.S. there, without the U.K. there, and other European forces, they would have collapsed at this point. The coalition forces are keeping them alive right now. And because of this ceasefire deal, Russia will not be attacking them. And this was done on purpose by the United States, where they want to keep this ceasefire because it allows them to keep the moderate rebels safe while they're trying to take back the territory from the Islamic State. Not because the Islamic State took the territory, because they know that the Syrian armed forces and the Russian forces are going to obliterate them, and they want that territory before Assad and the Russian forces take that area. And this is exactly what they're doing right now. And we see the Islamic State, what they're doing is they're taking the Humvees that they got from the U.S., which was kind of delivered right to them, and they are turning them into explosive weapons, where they're loading up these Humvees with explosives, and they're driving them into certain areas and having them explode. Now, we have to remember when we go back to June of 2014, when the Islamic State filtered in from Jordan, came down from Turkey, overran Mosul. They took all the weapons, the Humvees, and everything else that was there because it was completely planned. Well, now they're using this as a last-ditch effort, and most likely trying to get rid of a lot of the evidence at the same exact time. And we can see right now that things are really starting to heat up in the Middle East. And very interestingly, this weekend the Pentagon announced changes to its military training protocols. And what they're going to do is they're going to have a new system where they're going to prepare troops to go anywhere at any time. And they're going to place small troops in certain areas. We can see already how they're preparing for the next war. Everything is changing. Everything's being ramped up. And we need to watch this situation very, very carefully because it's starting to accelerate at this point. We see there was a terrorist attack in Turkey, in Istanbul. And of course, Erdogan's out there saying that we are going to name the perpetrators very soon. We already know who they are. And you know it's going to be either the Kurds or the Islamic State or some Syrian forces, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to get into Syria. And we'll have to see what he comes up with, because we know they're going to know exactly who it is in a day or two. That's how fast they can investigate these things. And we know it was a false flag, because they're trying to get their forces under Article 5 with NATO into Syria. This is the main agenda right now. They're trying to figure out a way where they can bring troops into Syria. Now, something very interesting out in the Nevada, California area, the FAA put up a warning to airplane pilots that GPS signals on the West Coast, and especially over California and Nevada, will be impacted. The reason isn't exactly clear, but out of Gizmodo, it says that the U.S. military will be testing a device or devices that will jam GPS signals 6 hours each day. Now, this is going to be from today all the way to June 30th, which is something very interesting and something that we need to watch. Now, U.S. Representative Lou Barletta, chairman of the House Subcommittee on Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management, he wrote something where an attack would be devastating on the U.S. if some group, some country hit the power infrastructure, the power grid. So if we were hit by a cyber attack, he's saying that the U.S. is completely unprepared. He said it would leave millions of residents and key physical locations without power for an extended period of time. Now, FEMA Administrator Craig Fugatin was asked, how long do you think the electricity would be out? It would be a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks. He said it's going to be many weeks. The Department of Energy and the Department of Homeland Security, they both agreed to this. They said, yes, we would not be able to have the electric back up for many different weeks. Now, does that mean 4 weeks? Does that mean 6 weeks? Well, they weren't very clear on that. They were testifying that the federal government has done little planning to cope with a cyber attack on the grid. This is what this was all about. Now, Barletta went on to say that if the goal of terrorists is to collapse our economy, then shutting down our electrical grid is where they would start. And he went on to say that most troubling is the possibility that a cyber attack would be accompanied by a physical terrorist attack, a scenario that promises true havoc and panic and loss of life. Now, I'm thinking to myself, I've been saying this for quite a while, that this is what they're going to do. Now we have a congressman, a U.S. representative out there, saying the same exact thing. And what's very interesting about this is that it would be easy for the U.S. government central bankers to blame this on another government, on another group, and it would take all blame away from them. And remember, a cyber attack, you really don't have to prove anything. All you have to say is, we were cyber attacked, and then point your finger. And America, the world, would believe it. Because look what happened when they said North Korea cyber attacked Sony. Everyone just said, yes, this must be true, because the U.S. said it. And they didn't have to prove anything. So when we get hit, and they have the answer of who did it right away, you know it's complete propaganda. Now, everyone's thinking to themselves, well, if they knock out the energy, the power grid, you know, how are you going to get this information across? Well, they're not going to knock out the entire country. That'd be ridiculous. They wouldn't be able to get their message out of letting everyone know what happened. They will do it in certain pockets. Now, you might see blackouts here. You might see a physical attack in a different area. And they will do this, but everyone will get the message. And they will point the finger to those who are responsible, to those who they want us to believe that we need to go to war with. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.